What's up, everybody? The Big Boss here, back with another YouTube video. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Cobra Kai Season 1. I absolutely loved the first season. It wasn't perfect. It had some things that I wish they would have addressed, but hey, overall, great show. So, if you haven't seen it, you can check out any one of my reviews. I go episode by episode, show you the main parts in each episode so you understand what's happening. Overall, phenomenal show. But from the very beginning, one of the things that really bothered me is that the premise of the show is based on an interaction that happened between the two main characters, which is Johnny Lawrence, who was known as the bad guy in the movie The Karate Kid, and Daniel LaRusso, who was known as the good guy in The Karate Kid. There was a karate competition, and it came down to, when they were kids, a fight between the two of them. So in the original Karate Kid movie, we see this fight between these two main characters. So the good guy wins. And I believe that's the last we hear about Johnny Lawrence. They might have mentioned him in one of the other movies. I can't remember. I haven't seen movies in a long time. But that's where that story ended, as far as I know. So the show Cobra Kai revolves around these two main characters still, Johnny and Daniel. But we're seeing a different point of view. Now we're not following Daniel LaRusso and seeing him be the good guy. They flip it around. They show us most of the show through Johnny's eyes, his point of view, and how he's the protagonist of the story, or the quote-unquote good guy, and that he, according to him, has always been the good guy. And I think that's super interesting, because I always say we are all the protagonist in our own narrative. When we tell our story, we're always the good guy. And I think that's true for everybody. And I've said this before. Nobody wakes up saying, I want to be the bad guy. No, even people that we disagree with, they're standing up for their beliefs. They're doing what they think is right. So here we have Johnny, who's standing up for what he believes is right and what he believes life is about. No mercy. Strike first. You know, that's what he based his life on. So the thing that really bothered me is that we go to this event where Johnny and Daniel fight. Johnny loses. And after that, we don't see him improving. In high school, he was that mean-spirited kid, that bully. And that's how they portray him. In Cobra Kai, they show flashbacks to how he came up. He was neglected at home. Yes, he had stuff, but he didn't have love. And Kreese, the guy that taught him no mercy, the guy that taught him strike first, was the person to give Johnny attention. So he looked up to Kreese. Johnny looked up to Kreese, and he lived his life according to what he learned from him, which is no problem. However, we don't see development on Johnny's side until we start seeing this show, Cobra Kai. It pretty much shows Daniel and Johnny fought in the 80s, and Johnny's been a loser ever since because he lost one match. And that's how they kind of started the show, and they kind of continue that on. And while they're trying to show us that there's a lack of development on Johnny's side, they don't really tell us the why. We see it through his personality and his journey that he keeps making the wrong decision. But here we are 30 years later, and he's barely trying. Now, is that possible? Yeah, I'm sure there's some people that wait 30 years to try and get their life in order. But to me, it just seemed a little bit far-fetched. Especially having these concepts of no mercy, strike first. He didn't do that for 30 years. You know? He wasn't aggressive to life. He was reactive. So I thought that was interesting, and I think that's a big gap that they haven't filled in yet, and I want to see what they do with that. I want to see them fill in part of that, because so far what we know is this. Johnny Daniel fought. Johnny lost. Because of it, he had a kid with a woman and wasn't there for them. The woman has her own issues, but he wasn't a father to his son. Now that his son's in his mid-teens, he's trying to reach out, but to his son, it seems too late. And his son's acting up. His son is doing all this stuff, and Johnny disagrees with it, but there's nothing he can do. He wasn't there for him. Just like Johnny felt neglected, he's also neglecting his son, which I don't understand. Somebody who believes in no mercy and strike first, why you would allow that to happen to your kid. But that's how the show is. On the other hand, we have Daniel. We do get to see the progression of his life because he won a karate match and became a karate champion. Okay? We see that because of that, he has a beautiful wife, 2 awesome kids. He owns a car dealership with multiple locations. He is part of the board of the current karate community. And he is very much involved, from what we see, with his social circle and his community. So we see him being quote unquote a winner in life, what we would expect to be a winner in life, because of a karate match. And then the complete opposite for Johnny. But we don't see what happened with that time really, so that kind of bothers me. In any case, so then the way they develop the characters, we're seeing the journey of both of them. So we see Johnny being on this redemption path as he's trying to get his life together, all because of Cobra Kai. After 30 years, he brings back Cobra Kai because it disappeared for whatever reason, and he meets Miguel. Miguel is his neighbor, a kid in high school in his mid-teens, and they come into an altercation where Miguel is getting beat up by a couple of kids. Johnny's just sitting there, and the only reason he says something is because they touch his car, and Johnny loves his car. He ends up beating up the group of kids because they get in his face. Not because he was defending Miguel, not because it was the right thing to do, but just because they got in his face. So Miguel is amazed by Johnny's skills. So he wants to see. So he wants Johnny to teach him. Johnny says no, and ignores him, avoids him. Johnny, at the same time, he's still going through this journey of self-discovery and redemption. And through it, he has a car accident. Well, somebody crashes into his car. So he calls a tow truck. The tow truck takes the vehicle away because he can't start it after the accident. It was a hit and run. And they take it to Daniel LaRusso's car dealership, which also has a repair shop. So then Johnny goes to get his vehicle because he doesn't want to go to Daniel LaRusso's body shop and have to pay him money to get his car fixed there. As he goes to get his vehicle, he runs into Johnny. They meet, they talk a little bit. They haven't seen each other in years. Assumptively through their conversation. So it's a little, hey, how you doing, this and that. And Daniel ends up fixing Johnny's car. And then the story just keeps progressing. Through these events, that's when we learn about Johnny and his son. His son not doing well in school. Johnny's son, his name is Robbie. And after his interaction with Daniel, he decides to open up his dojo, Cobra Kai. So he goes to Miguel and says, hey, you still want me to teach you? Let's go. So he starts teaching Miguel. You know, Miguel is his first student. They're developing the story and the relationship between Miguel and Johnny. And really, Miguel is of this new age. He's new generation. You know, so much smarter than Johnny when it comes to trying to get ahead in life. So he gives a lot of balance to Johnny, and I think that's what's helping him develop as a person. Johnny, on the other hand, is trying to give Miguel some confidence, teaching him to stand up for himself, teaching him karate. But he goes too far and starts indoctrinating him with his ideas of no mercy, strike first, you know. And what's interesting that then we see Miguel go from this timid, shy, very nice kid to a bully. By the end of the season, Miguel is different. He he has turned into the same similar type of kid that Johnny was when he was a kid. So the way they develop that story is very, very interesting. On the other hand, we have Daniel LaRusso, and he's going through a different journey in his life because he has all this stuff, and he's having these negative events happen to him in his life where it's forcing him to have to keep seeing Johnny. It even causes Daniel to feel the need for payback and is trying to shut down Cobra Kai, trying to keep Cobra Kai out of the karate tournament. He makes Johnny's landlord for Cobra Kai double the rent to make it more difficult for him to keep his dojo. And Daniel's doing all these things because he does not like Johnny. Somewhere through the story, he goes visit Mr. Miyagi's grave and sits down and has a chat with him. And that's when he remembers that life is about balance. Johnny then goes back to practicing karate. Now, I'm assuming he hadn't practiced karate in a while. They did show that he was teaching his daughter for a while. His daughter is now in her mid-teens. So we can assume that it's been maybe 8 years or so from what they've said in the show that he's practiced karate. It could be less. It's possible that it's less. But just from what they've showed in the show, we can assume that. Through their journey, Johnny's trying to now be a parent to Robbie, his son. And at some point, Robbie sees Johnny and Miguel bonding. And that makes him upset because you see, here's this man who's your dad who never gave you attention, and he's bonding with another kid who's probably about your age. That's got to be hard. That's definitely got to be hard for Robbie. So what he does is he turns around and goes to Daniel LaRusso's car dealership and gets a job there, doing whatever he can. He lies. He says he's older, and so they give him a job doing, all the chores around the shop. And he happens to stumble across Daniel, who is now practicing karate again, and Robbie becomes his student. So they're both practicing karate. So then we have Daniel, who's teaching Robbie karate and trying to teach him these philosophies of balance. And they really do show the difference in the karate styles between Johnny and Daniel. Johnny is strike first, no mercy. Daniel is balance, and it's not about hurting people. It's about defending yourself. It's about knowing yourself. It's about standing up for yourself. So two different ideologies for their disciplines. Through the show, there's also that Romeo and Juliet moment where Daniel's daughter, Sam, starts dating Johnny's student, Miguel. And they're in a relationship, but they're being told, Miguel by Johnny and Sam by her dad, that they shouldn't be in a relationship, that they shouldn't hang out with each other, that they need to be careful of each other. So that escalates. At some point, Robbie, who's Johnny's son, interacts with Sam. Miguel takes it the wrong way and tries to fight Robbie. Ends up with Miguel and Sam breaking up, and Miguel not understanding, not realizing that he has become the bully. The whole season, the whole development of the season ends with the last episode being a karate tournament. We have Johnny and the Cobra Kais against these other dojos that are competing. And then we have, which was very interesting, I like the way they did it, then we had Robbie show up on his own. At some point before the tournament, Johnny and Daniel were bonding. They were getting along. They show up to Daniel's house, and Johnny sees Robbie there. Now, Daniel doesn't know that Robbie is Johnny's son, and Johnny doesn't know that Robbie was working for Daniel or studying karate with Daniel. So both Johnny and Daniel, after bonding for an afternoon, show up to Daniel's house, and there's Robbie. Johnny flips out and leaves. Daniel kicks Robbie out when he learns that Johnny is Robbie's dad and tells Robbie to leave, that he never wants to see him again. And that's the last time we see an interaction between Robbie and Daniel until this tournament where Robbie just happens to show up on his own. Nobody knew he was going to be there, and Daniel's surprised. So the tournament happens, and it ends up Robbie versus Miguel for the trophy. Daniel ends up making amends with Robbie during the tournament, ends up coaching him. Now here's where it gets interesting. When Johnny and Daniel fought in the tournament, Johnny fought dirty. I don't want to say he cheated, but he fought dirty. He knew Daniel was hurt, and he kept injuring his injury. And we see something very, very similar when Miguel is fighting Robbie. But Johnny says to Miguel, you don't have to fight dirty. We can win this the right way. And Miguel says to Johnny, there's nothing dirty about winning. And he does the same thing to Robbie. Robbie got injured prior to their match. And so Miguel keeps going after that injury. At the end of the tournament, Miguel wins. Johnny's not happy because he felt sad that his student won in a very dirty way. So even though they had the trophy, Johnny wasn't content, and it shows that Johnny's trying to turn it around, and I really like that because we've been able to see Johnny's journey through the whole season as he's been trying to improve as a human being. And then Daniel goes and shows Robbie that they're going to start a dojo, and it was at Mr. Miyagi's old place. And then we see Johnny in his dojo in his office, and somebody comes in. Johnny thinks it's Miguel, so he goes out there to see if it's Miguel. And that's when he sees Kreese. Kreese comes in, does a few words to him, and says, Cobra Kai is back on top. Now, previous to this, when Johnny mentioned Kreese, Johnny had said that Kreese was dead. So, of course, it's a shock. And that's where it ends. So, we're going to see what happens in the next season. I enjoyed the show. But my point of contention is two things. One, I don't like that there hasn't been any development for Johnny in 30 years. It blows my mind that there hasn't been any. Two, through the tournament, they show kids who have been practicing karate for a year or less, and they were able to beat other kids who had been practicing karate potentially most of their life, and yet these kids managed to beat them. For the sake of the story, I understand, but realistically, I didn't like it. Another thing, and this is something I kind of thought of, but I didn't really think about it too much. Especially the last episode, where I'm watching these kids with their minimal amount of practice. These kids that have way more experience, way more practice, and that got me thinking, what was it like when Johnny and Daniel were fighting? Because it had to be something similar. Now, I haven't seen the movie in a long time. I don't remember it, so I didn't want to say anything in regards to that, really, because I don't know. But then somebody commented on one of my posts. Forgive me if I say your name incorrectly, but Max Larive. Max, I appreciate your comment because it was something I had thought about, and it's something that I hope they do address. I haven't seen the season 2 yet, but I do hope it's something that they address in the show. So Max said, one thing the series fails to utterly take into consideration is that Johnny was also two-time champion just before LaRusso. You can read his comment. He posted it on season 1, episode 10, titled Mercy. Max, thank you for your input. I appreciate that. I really, really liked this season. It was amazing. You guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Anybody who commented, gave me a like, subscribe, I completely appreciate you. You guys have been phenomenal. I love being able to review something for you guys and seeing your guys' comments about what you think. Keep them coming, you guys. Any extra input, let me know. Anything you want to see or something that bugs you about the way I do things, let me know. I'm trying to keep it as concise as possible for you guys. I'm trying to keep these as short as possible for you guys. But I do appreciate all the comments, all the likes, all the subs. It's amazing, guys. And we're just getting started here. Feel free to watch the rest of my videos. I just posted up a new YouTube trailer. If you haven't seen that yet, youtube.com/thebigboss. You can get to know me a little bit more. I do stream on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. You guys, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for coming through. Please, if you like this video, click that thumbs up. Click that subscribe button if you haven't yet. So if you want to see future episodes, make sure you click that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. As always, appreciate you all, and I'll see you on the next one.